Joining on. Thank you for joining on time. We will wait for a couple more minutes before we get started. Wait for more participants joining. Hi, Narayan. Welcome back.
Hello. Hello, Rohit.
Anyone who can come on the video to say hi, would love to do that. If you're shy, it's fine. So, hi, Funny. Hi, Murli.
Hi
Good to see you.
everyone.
Hey. Hello, Bhavya sir.
Hi Rohit. Hello everyone.
Hello. Hello, Vinav. Hi, Vino. Hi. Nice. Okay. Just like last time, we have participants from all over the world. I can see known faces and new faces. Thank you for joining. Cool. So just to, just before we get started, for anyone who was not able to join the previous session that we started last week, you might have received an email which consists of the recording of the session as well as the documentation. I will also paste the link to the page on the chat over here so that you guys can refer in case you missed it. And feel free to also share it with your colleagues, your teammates who might find it useful. It is, we want the messaging to go as to reach as many people as possible. And also, if there are a few points that you want to be covered as part of the series, something related to the title that we already have, please do post on the chat. We'll see how we can accommodate it. And if it requires a whole different topic altogether, we will make sure that we create a separate session to make sure that it happens. Cool. We have 100 plus participants. And we are 2 minutes past time. So I think let us get started. Thank you so much again for everyone who joined, post my good morning, good evening wishes. This is the second session of the Agentic Discovery series that you have been participating. The session is at the same time on the same day for the next 5 more weeks. It would be a great opportunity for you to attend all of those sessions and stay ahead of the curve. This is a new topic everyone is still figuring out, including UiPath, and a lot of these conversations that we are looking to drive is through the feedback that we get from all of you. A lot of you come from a background of business analysts, pre-sales, solution architecture, or even developers. And yes, I mean, let us know how we can make sure that the content that we are sharing is as rich and as useful as possible for all of you. All the sessions that we do are recorded as well. So in case you happen to miss out on any of those sessions, it's fine. You will get an email along with the recording link, and all the videos, all the recording videos will be uploaded on the UiPath Community's YouTube channel as well. Since we have high number of participation coming in for this session, we will have a Q&A dedicated towards the end of the session. So keep your questions parked if you really want to voice it out. Otherwise, let the questions keep coming in on the chat, so we will make sure that the questions are answered over time. If you find any question on the chat and you know the answer, don't wait for someone else to respond. Feel free to respond yourself. There is no right or wrong here. We are all there to help each other out. So that's all from the introduction point of view. Thank you all for joining, and Deepak and Saloni are the speakers for today. Over to you, Deepak, Saloni.
Thanks a lot, Rohit, and thanks everyone for joining this session. So let me get started with what we are going to cover in this session. So Rohit has already spoken about the series. So we are conducting a series for next couple of weeks, and we have got 6 sessions as part of this series. This is dedicated to, I would say, BAs, COE leads, pre-sales, architecture, solution architects who are actually changing their kind of role, understanding more from an agentic area. So in the last session, we covered like how do you actually discover opportunities from an agentic space. Now that you have understood that what are those work areas and processes that you need to focus on, now it's time to understand how do you prioritize those use cases, because you would obviously know that it's not right to put your investment into those use cases which might not be providing the right business value in terms of efficiency, productivity, etc. So we really need to focus our energies on those right processes. So that's what the topic is, like how do you prioritize those use cases. So moving on, about myself. Before I move to myself, this particular session has been initiated by UiPath community in Bangalore, but we are doing it across the globe. It's co-hosted in multiple locations. But if you're in Bangalore, there are a lot of enthusiasts from automation space. They do a lot of sessions virtually as well as in person. So whenever you're around, just feel free to attend those sessions. About myself, I'm Saloni Chuneja. I am based in Australia and I work in Roboyo as a manager in intelligent automation space. Overall, I've worked with multiple customers within discovery space for close to 15 years. I have been working, looking at different opportunities that can provide best value in terms of opportunity assessment, feasibility analysis, creating business cases, etc. And now I'm working with a lot of customers across Australia to look at their agentic automations. Today, joining with me is Deepak. So he's automation practice lead from Boundaryless Group. He's 5 times MVP and he's got enough knowledge of automation, and he's been working in different parts of automation space, including agentic automation. So thanks, Deepak, for joining us today. So we'll be talking to you in next couple of minutes. So while I was talking about the agenda of the day, like as I said that last week we were talking about what are those opportunities, what are those different use cases that we need to discover as part of agentic automation. We'll also talk about quick recap of what we spoke last week. But from the day, we are talking about how do you design and develop agent stories. So that's the first part of the agenda. Then we'll move on to talking about what are the different prioritization criteria, which is complexity, autonomy, and benefit. That will be the second part. Then we'll talk about a metrics that you would use to actually prioritize all those use cases, which is impact and feasibility metrics. And then I will pass on to Deepak, who would talk about, one second. So he will talk about stakeholder alignment, scoring templates. Also, here we would also look at BPMN from UiPath perspective. So we'll go to the product, we'll show how you can actually leverage those capabilities and also have some data modeling considerations. We'll also talk about what makes a use case agentic, like from a BA perspective. So how do you actually define those use cases exactly in the agentic space? And then finally, we'll have a very quick live group exercise where we will give you a small use case and then we'll talk about different aspects around that. And as Rohit said, we'll keep a couple of minutes towards the end for Q&A, but feel free to ask questions in the chat during the session as well. So yeah, let's get started. And as I said, we'll quickly recap in case you missed the session last week. We'll talk about what did we cover in terms of how do you actually find out what a process is and how do you say that it's an agentic process. So moving on, so when you're looking at any process, there are a couple of features or a couple of aspects that you need to really pick up to say that, yeah, this is an agentic process or this can be a good fit for agentic automation. So what are those particular aspects that you have to look for? Can you move on, Deepak? So the very first thing is that you would have always heard about agentic saying autonomy, which means that any process where you can find out areas where there is minimal supervision required, which agent can understand over a period of time. So that's a wonderful use case to actually pick up for agentic. The second one would be adaptability. So we are talking about these agents that can adapt to different environment. They can look for answers across different data formats, etc. So that's where we are talking about adaptability from an agentic perspective. The third thing is that these agents can actually reason out and find out the right uh, path. Like they can actually choose what is the correct answer. So that's one of the other criteria which is associated with agentic. And finally, we are talking about anticipation. So not just that they can actually deliver what needs to be done now, they can also anticipate what should be the next step. So these are the things that some of my connects also spoke about last week. So this is what we were talking about in the previous session. Now in the first aspect of our session today, we will be talking about Deepak, can you move to the previous slide? Sorry, no. Yeah, so we will be talking about how do you identify agent stories. Deepak, you would have to, yeah, thank you. So you must have heard about this word agent stories, and if you can recap previous knowledge of when you were creating automation use cases from a discovery lens, we were talking about user stories. So now we talk about agent stories. So when we were doing automations, we were doing from a user perspective. So we were talking to a user to understand that what they are exactly doing, and we want to mimic that part in the automation. Now what we are doing is we are actually creating stories for these agents who would be doing those steps. So that's what an agent story actually means. So moving on, from a definition perspective, an agent story is a structured narrative that defines the specific function or identity of an AI agent, which means that we are actually explaining to a developer what is the role of that agent, what it is supposed to do in the environment, in the data that we are providing, etc. Because these agents can perceive the data, they are the ones that consume the provided knowledge repositories, or the data sets that has been defined, or even we are talking about the business the rules that you have defined in your organization. So they consume all that and give you the output. So that's what we have to define from an agent perspective. And before we actually do that, we need to understand what is that target role. So when we are going and looking at different processes, you have to talk about a specific role for which you are actually creating that agent. So what's that role? So that's the first thing that you would probably talk to SMEs and ask them that who is that person, or what is that role that we are trying to mimic. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we need to understand what they are doing on a day to day basis. Now, initially, when we were talking about RPA, we were looking at very rule based standard process. But here, because these agents adapt, we need to look at the entire spectrum of their role in the entire process that they are doing. So we have to understand that. We have to look at the different input and output dependencies. So it's similar to what we were talking about, the upstream and downstream processes. So we need to understand the entire perspective from that particular role. Finally, we need to also understand their pain points, because uh, if you would not understand your challenges or pain points, it would be very difficult to create an agent which is more holistic. So that's where we are looking at those challenges these role is actually having in their day-to-day work that they are doing. And finally, this is what I always prefer to do, is create an end-to-end as is process map, because that's where it helps me understand how that particular role is actually talking to different people, working in different systems, etc. So this gives a lot of perspective of how you would actually create a 2B agent story. So that's the first aspect about agent stories. And we have very interesting blueprint that I would like everybody to start leveraging. And these are pretty product agnostic. So when you're actually talking to customers, these agent stories, these blueprints can actually be used for any kind of products that you're using. So that's the kind of message that we are trying to give, that we are going pretty product agnostic in terms of all these definitions in the discovery space. Uh, this is one of the blueprint which we would use for our discussions today, and we'll also use it for our case study. So what we're talking about is as an agent role. So that's that particular role which you are targeting as part of your discovery, operating in an environment. So now what you're doing is you've looked at that role. Now you have to understand what is the environment, like what are the different systems that this particular agent is actually navigating into, or basically interacting in, and what is that this agent is actually trying to achieve, what is the objective that we want to attain with this particular agent, and the actions and behaviors. So, what is the exact action this particular agent would take by interacting with different users? So, that's where I said it's also important to understand not from only that role, but we need to understand what are the different people, users, etc. this agent would be interacting. And of course, when we have to define something, we need to understand what is the output that this agent is supposed to actually achieve. So that's where we will talk about the desired outcome and benefit. And it's no use if we don't have a success criteria. So we must understand that if this particular agent has really achieved what we wanted to, what is that particular KPI or the performance indicator by which you would actually measure that. So that's the success criteria. So very very simple blueprint that we can use in entire processes that we are looking at. And these are some of the examples from an agent story perspective. I'll probably pause and will ask any one of you to volunteer and maybe read some of these agent stories for everybody on the call. And if you can help us also relate to the blueprint that I spoke about, that would be great. So, is there anybody who would like to pick up any of these agent stories? You need not be shy. You can just go ahead and anybody can talk.
I can go ahead.
Yeah, funny. Go ahead. Sorry, is it Narayan? Okay,
Yeah.
Narayan, go ahead.
Okay. Do I have to follow the order or I can take any domain?
You can take up any domain.
Okay. So I will take high-tech manufacturing domain, predictive maintenance agent. So as a predictive maintenance agent operating with manufacturing facility, I want to prevent equipment failure. So predictively determining which equipments are going to fail by analyzing sensor data to predict potential malfunction and scheduling maintenance activities. Interacting with maintenance scheduling systems and technicians so that production process runs smoothly without unexpected interruptions, increasing productivity. So success is measured by reduced equipment downtime, uh, lower maintenance cost, and improved production efficiency. So what I understood is this agent will be monitoring the sensor data and determining which equipment can be failed in future based on the past learning it has got, and depending on that it will interact, it will broadcast messages to different technicians and schedule maintenance.
Thanks, Narayan.
Yeah.
Pretty well articulated. So yes, that's how we are trying to define these user stories and agent stories, I would say. And that's where, with this, we will actually create those prompts to actually design the agent. So as you rightly said, so the role is here predictive maintenance agent, and it's actually talking in a manufacturing facility, like interacting with that particular environment. And the objective that it's trying to achieve is actually it's trying to prevent equipment failures by analyzing sensor data. So that's the objective. And finally, action it is doing is that it is interacting with that maintenance scheduling systems and technicians so that it can finally achieve the required outcome with a success criteria that is defined. So that's how we will actually define some agent stories. uh, in the interest of time, I would not really go through all of them, but maybe you can spend 1 minute to have a look, and maybe if you have any questions you can post on the chats. Yeah, I think let's move on, Deepak, to the next slide. So now, as I said, that we first wanted to understand what we want to pursue in terms of those use cases, those work areas. Now it's time to prioritize. So the aspects that we are looking from a prioritization perspective is, you would say, pretty similar to what we were doing even in the automation space, but how you would do might vary because we are adding the autonomy part. So from a complexity perspective, it's even important to now look at the technical difficulty of implementing it and the data availability. So I would say from the previous automations, we would like to focus more on the data availability because that's where these agents would actually start interacting. So most of the companies have got certain trusted knowledge bases. So that's where most of the data would come from. So you can look at different aspects of repositories that have been created. So you have to see how feasible it is to connect to that data. Is that data really in a form where these agents can consume? So that's the very first aspect. And from an integration perspective, we have to look at the different systems that we have and how easy it is to actually interact with that ecosystem that is in our environment. So that's from a complexity standpoint. I'll also talk about certain more questions which we will ask from a complexity. This is pretty high level, but we'll deep dive into different questions that you can ask from a complexity perspective. The second thing that we have to understand is autonomy. So these agents, how well they can actually talk independently. So though we are saying that these agents actually adapt to the environment, we still have to understand to what extent they can adapt. What is that exceptions that these agents can really pick up? That's another aspect we have to understand from a prioritization perspective. And these agents, we don't need much of human interventions. We want minimal human in the loop. That's one of the criteria. We want these agents to be pretty autonomous and taking all the decisions by itself. And finally, from a benefit perspective, you would know that we want to define the benefit in terms of the ROI or the value that would be provided by these agents. So these are the criteria, but we'll talk about it slightly more in the upcoming slides. So there's a very interesting metrics, which is impact and feasibility metrics, which would be used for prioritization. So typically, we actually define what are the impact and feasibility by asking some of the questions. So most of you would ask, like, how do you actually calculate a feasibility? So in terms of the feasibility factors, I would probably define 6 areas which you should prioritize and bucketize all these factors into 3 criteria, which is high, medium, and low. So if you can ask questions like, system integration, where can these agents really access those different systems that are in your organization, which might vary from one organization to another, and put it in a bucket of high, medium, and low. So that's the first feasibility factor in terms of understanding whether it's really possible to create an agent. The second one is data availability. So we already spoke about the different data aspects that you might have in your organizations, whether there are databases, knowledge repositories, can these agents really interact with them? So again, bucketize in those 3 buckets, and then you can understand how feasible it is to actually connect these agents to that database. Uh, we are talking about process standardization, though it is a criteria where we actually move on from these aspects. So, not really required to focus, but you should look at how vague is the process, or if it is actually defined in terms of SOPs, etc. So that's something which you should also look from an exception complexity. Again, though these agents can do some exception handling on itself, but you have to really understand that, how much is that degree of those exception complexity. So understand that if it is high, low, or medium. And finally, I would say security and compliance, where these agents really need to be having a governance framework. It should not be really going out of the control of what your organization is supposed to actually adhere to in terms of security. So these are some of the aspects you should actually understand if it is going beyond the bounds of the required outcomes that they are trying to achieve. So these are the different feasibility criteria. Moving on to the impact. So when we have created each of that particular item in terms of three buckets, now we'll talk about the impact. And impact is that value that we are trying to bring to the table. And I would bucketize them, which is pretty similar to what we have already seen in other automation world. From an agent perspective, how much time it saves, how much cost it saves, how much of accuracy that we can achieve. And Deepak would in fact show you all this as part of Automation Hub. You can still use a lot of aspects of Automation Hub to actually calculate this particular impact, and it will give you an ROI of how you can actually bring that to the management to take a go and no go decision. So pretty much similar to what we have been talking from an automation perspective. Now, Deepak, finally, I would like to bring the impact and feasibility metrics, which is on the next slide. So, if you have given answers to all the questions, this would become very similar, and that's where I wanted to bring this after the questions. So, it has got four quadrants, which is starting from high impact to low impact and high feasibility to low feasibility. So, talking about the fourth quadrant, which is like high impact and high feasibility, that's something you should do now. So, wherever your answers to those different questions, and those questions which I actually quoted may vary from organization to organization. I'm not saying that these are strict questions. Some of the organizations might have different aspects to analyze feasibility or impact. Please include that in your questionnaire and then fit all that aspect into this quadrant. So as I said about the high impact and high feasibility, now we'll move on to the next one, which is low feasibility and high impact. So that's where you will actually do next. Something which is high feasibility and low impact, you can do it later. And something which is like low feasibility and low impact, you want to maybe not invest your time in that. So that's where you would actually be able to then prioritize your use cases into the right bucket and take the decision of taking it to the next level. So that's from a prioritization perspective. And now we will move on to the stakeholder alignments. Like once we have prioritized, who are the right stakeholders to talk in the organization, and the different scoring templates that are provided. So yeah, Deepak, you can take the control and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Saloni. Okay. So, as Saloni mentioned, right, we have to majorly focus on the stakeholder alignments, which all possible users are involved during the process. What will be the stakeholder matters, what it matters, which all key stakeholder groups are available. We have to finalize it even when the starting of the agents itself. So, first point is why stakeholder alignments matter. When we are talking about this misalignment delays automation adoptions, because if we don't have the right set of users who is decision makers, and we are not aligned with their roles, responsibilities, pain factor, and what we are trying to achieve it, so that's where our problem appears, and this always delays the automation adoptions or agents adoptions. Then in some of the organizations, sorry, sorry. So in one organizations, we might have different stakeholders, and every stakeholders might have different priorities. Few of them are actually looking forward to build the agents on finance department, and some of are really reluctant to build these type of agents or AI agents into procurement departments. So depending on the priorities, depending on the skill set, they will propose these solutions. But those who are decision makers, those who are responsible for this agent builder, need to have the right set of use cases, and accordingly we should proceed further. Otherwise, there will be always a discussion between the team itself, which one we can pick it up first and which we can prioritize to the next label. And finally, when we are talking about the UiPath Agentic brings one decision framework. By using some set of tools, we can conclude which is the first priority for us to make it or take it further from there onwards. And in group's point of view, there is the executive sponsors where you can deal with the CEO or CFO, or maybe with the business head who is responsible for releasing the budgets as well as calculating for the ROI, how it brings value add to their organizations. Accordingly, they will make a decisions. So executive sponsor who is taking this idea further and then assign the individual process owner. These process owners will talk about their respective process itself. So if we are taking an example of finance department, maybe finance uh, lead will handle these processes, and he will guide us or provide the subject matter for those finance department. If we are talking about the procurement or IT, so
Hello, Deepak, can you hear us? Can you speak a bit louder, please? Sorry, we are not able to hear you clearly.
is it clear now?
Yeah, much
Yeah, I
better.
can hear you.
Yeah, yeah, no, much better. The
Okay.
earlier part was like too muffled, Deepak. Sorry.
Oh, sorry for that. So I was talking about the stakeholder groups. So first group is executive sponsor, where we can consider CFO, CEO, or maybe business head or department head will fall into this bucket, where they can take a decisions and get it approved, budgeting as well as calculation of the ROI. Once the decision is made for a processes which we can proceed it further, then they will start assigning to the process owner, and these process owners are majorly a subject matter expert who is leading their respective departments. So consider we are talking, or we are planning to deliver the solutions on finance department. So finance lead might take this responsibility and get all those information needed for building the agents or AI agents. And in terms of automation, COE, BA teams will get responsible to to making the bridge between business and tech team. And finally, end users who is regularly using these solutions into their day-to-day life. There's one more factor is also involved, or one more group is also involved, uh, like IT security and compliance. As Saloni mentions, when we are talking about the security aspects, compliance and governance policy comes first, where IT infosec can also try to see this agent is fitting to their organization's security policies and not. So these are the different stakeholder groups which is involved when we are planning to build some agents into the organizations. Now, this is the agent scoring. When we are talking about the building of the agents, there are many aspects must be considered to create a production ready AI agents. We need to craft a well structured prompt for instructing the agent, and we have to also choose the right tools for it to complete a task, and then perform sufficient evaluations for the diverse set of scenarios it may encounter. And when we are building this score matrix, Whenever you're utilizing this Maestro or AI agents into your path, you will see this type of scoring will be generated for each and every agents. This is basically calculated based on the evaluations where the weightage is 40%, then the prompt structuring, which is 30%, which all tools we are using, which is having a weightage of 20%, as well as input schema, which is again 10% of it. So when we are talking about the prompt quality matters a lot, where the clarity, how easily understood and unambiguous are the agent instructions. Completeness also comes under that, where which all necessary details for task executions included, as well as consistency. Do the agent instructions align with the business goal without any contradictions? And logical reasoning is the major part, where does the agent follow a step-by-step thinking process, and accordingly this matrix will be created. When we are talking about the tools, it also evaluates the agent's availability in terms of resources, where appropriate scope will be calculated. So the questions it will arise when we are using the tool is, does the agents have the right number of tools? Ideally under 10, 20, depending on the process, depending on the solutions what we are trying planning to build it. Documentation's quality, when we are preparing the documentations, that document should have the clear instructions, explanations about each and every steps, what we are planning to achieve, which all tools, functions, and when we are doing the deployments, at the end we have to deliver the right set of documentations along with the troubleshooting guidance as well. So entirely concluding all those, the completeness, does the agents have all those resources needed to perform the right set of actions? And when we are building this scoring templates, there are five major components will be calculated. First is business value, how much we are bringing value to the business, how this can be utilized within our framework or within the environment. Then what will be the complexity level? See, this score might differs from the agents to agent or organizations to organizations, but as per the solutions, you have to add the score matrix as well as weightage, which calculates overall rating out of a 5. So if we have the rating business value to the 4, then the weightage will be 30% of the business value, complexity 25, then so on, volume, frequency, risk impact, strategic alignments, everything will be included there. And when we are using the agent UI and we are planning to build it, these all components will be covered at the time of calculations of the score. Now, so far we have discussed on the theoretical concept. I will show you how we can utilize a BPMN as well as automation hub to start with the agent builder, how the ideas will be calculated, as well as what will be scoring will be generated depending on your questions and feasibility. It will generate the right set of scores, and accordingly you can prioritize the solutions to proceed it further. Now, first is what is BPMN? So it's business process model and notations. Because of the time constraints, I will try to cover high level. But definitely, if you have any interest on this, definitely you can reach out to us, and we'll plan to have one sessions on this. Because it's a very big tool, within 1 hour we won't be able to complete end to end. But at least I will give you a high level insights on it, how we can create one process. So BPMN is business process model and notations. It's widely used standard for visualizing documentations and optimizing business processes. However, many professionals, whether beginners or experienced modelers, often have questions about its uses. Best practices, real world applications will be included. So first is clarity. It's a symbol of intuitive symbol of events, tasks, gateways, and flows. where consistency matters a lot, where universal language understood across industry, and you can build a simple or very complex process in a simple way where your team can understand visually. So let me go to the tool and show you how it looks. Give me 1 second. Once you'll go to your cloud.uipath.com, you will see this. Along with that, UiPath also provided the URL and doc sections where you can open this window and start building your process. So before we'll see this, let's first take an example and take example of the process, and then we will jump into the BPM. Consider we wanted to build the agent which start from the process and calculate or understand all those documentations submitted by the user for the loan applications received. Based on the documentations, it will analyze each and every documentations, and based on the checklist what the banks follows, it generate the credit check. And if the credit check validations is more than 750, the bot is allowed or agent is allowed to release or confirmations email to the end user. We can also add some other validations or some other checklists like property appraisals, employment verifications, income verifications, underwriting reviews, as well as any other details which we can include it. So this is a simple process which we'll try to implement it here in BPMN. So whenever you want to start, first you have to just drag and drop any icon, and based on that, this is the all those icons which you have for building the BPMN process. Once you drag and drop, it will open a properties panel. From the properties panel, you can define or add the name. Consider I wanted to add as start loan processing. You will see in two patterns. One is properties and second is XML. Whenever you'll drag and drop, you will see these two wizard. Properties where we are adding the name into English, and here you'll have XML code generated for it. Let me delete this process. Now next is this is for the task. This one we are using for exclusive gate where we can apply or conditions or adding additional conditions. This circle or this one we are using for the end event, and if we wanted to add any intermediate event, we can utilize this round circle. Now I wanted to add some task here, so I will just drag and drop a task activity where I either double click on this or just drag and drop. You will have the task activity added successfully. After that, if you wanted to connect, just click on any icons and then click on connect, where you can add the connections between these two. It means start as well as task. Here, if you wanted to add the properties details of this task, maybe document verifications, I can add it. If you want, even we can add actions as input or output. Which all input parameters you have, output parameters you have, you can include it here. Next actions, I wanted to add some conditions. It means here we are going to use this flow to add some conditions. Here I wanted to just do some checklist from banks regulations. And now when you wanted to connect here, I will just select this one. If you want, you can use directly from connect or just drag and drop this. Even if you want, you can add some name for yes or no conditions. This is how we are building the BPMN process. If checklist is verified, we'll add another task. This task we can copy and paste it. maybe I will just drag and drop. I'm just trying to build happy path. So here we'll add, once everything looks fine, then, sorry, or maybe I will add it here. Okay, so once verification is done, we will send out or release the final email to the lead, or to the procurement lead who is leading this end-to-end engagement. And finally, after the verifications of the loan initiator, it will send out an email to the final end user. So this is how we are utilizing this BPMN tool for verifications or for building the end-to-end process. And after that, if you want, you can share this with any of your team members, as well as you can even generate by using autopilot. So here, if I wanted to generate by using purchase to pay order, you can generate it this entire process. It's a very simple, intuitive. You'll also have different fields like connections with the data store, data objects, sub processes, as well as you can add in the groups. So these are different components available. Once you are done, just save it, and after that, even you can download it to share with your team as well. If you wanted to open the output, right, you can also see output, and setting wizard is always available here. So this is how we can generate the BPN process. And next tool which we plan to cover is Automation Hub. Consider you find an idea, and you have you don't have just one idea. Your team is uh, having lot of pains for the processing of the documentations, SAP related conciliations, documentations, and other area. How you will find it out which process you can prioritize is first. The Automation Hub is helping your ideas to convert into the business languages, and based on the scoring factor, you can plan for the implementations, or you can plan for the agents builder. So first, it will ask you to enter your area. Consider I'm adding this Austria locations, and here it will navigate it to the next page. It will take time sometimes. Let me finish the further part, and then once it is ready, I will be back to Automation Hub. Okay. Okay. So when we are talking about the stakeholder alignments as well as tools, there's important questions appear. How bees can spot agentic automations? So first, they have to analyze each and every documentations and ask these five questions, like frequent decision making that require context awareness. If the process are not towards, or not towards the agentic or AI related stuff, probably this will not give you the context awareness informations. Exceptions, when we are talking about the exceptions, is human raising is involved or not? Taking an example of ServiceNow ticketing system, if we wanted to bifurcate all those tickets which is received by the customer are in which all areas, definitely a simple automations cannot be able to achieve it. We need some human reasoning, where to bucket it, which all inputs will be required, as well as uh, while doing the bifurcations, in which bucket we can categorize it. Is the tickets are positive, negative, and feedback which we have received from the customers are neutral or not? These decisioning we can take it with the help of AI. So that also comes into picture. When we are talking about the processes where output improves, the evaluations and the learning will be adopted from the previous process or steps or not, again, this will be right fit for, or right fit candidate for the agentic automations. And fourth is highly variable inputs that still share on underlying logic, where if input is varying from from stage to stage or from department to department, that also a good fit for the agentic automations. As well as when we have multiple knowledge sources that influences decisions, then also we can think through of building agentic automations. So let's see if our automation hub is ready. Okay, I think it's not. Or maybe I will explain you with the help of some images. Okay, hope this is visible. Okay,
You have to zoom it a bit.
yeah, I'm just doing it. 1 second. Okay. So when we are submitting the ideas submissions normally the questions will be defined as per the agentic. The automations questions are based on the feasibility, documentations, input and output. But we have to change the question scenarios, everything according to the agentic or agents automation solutions, and based on that this idea score will be generated. And that's the reason we thought where we can cover the automation hub. uh, when we are submitting the ideas, there's set of questions which is defined by the business user or by the administrator. Based on those input what user is submitting, it will generate this type of score or idea score, and accordingly business team can prioritize that idea. What is having sustainability? Is it having the good score or not, or is it fitting to our business value or not? Based on that, any companies can make a decisions to deliver or to start implementing this type of solutions. Sorry. And here also, once your idea is submitted, you can see this type of stats will be generated, where you can see agentic automations potentials or ease of implementations, which all stakeholders are involved, which all values we are adding to the process and not. So these all stats will be helpful, always helpful for taking in decisions into the process. Okay, I think I've covered this one. Now, final slide from my side. What makes a good agentic use case from the BA perspective? So there are four different factors are involved when we are taking this type of decisions. First is both flexible and precise. So making it easier for the user to interact with AI using natural language commands. This reduces the need for explicit programming language. If we are using any LLMs, which can also generate the response or actions based on nuanced or context dependent understanding, which is useful in scenarios where traditional programming might struggle to cover all those edge cases. On top of this, if we are using any or building any agents which involves LLM, can we shift those LLM to any other LLM? Maybe if we are using OpenAI, can we shift this to Gemini or any other model or Autogen as well as Mistral? So do we have these type of flexibility or not? Creating the tasks such as content generations, code completions, summarizations, as well as more to achieve the complexity level as well as generative capability is hard to replicate with traditional rule based programming. And when we are applying the traditional programming is highly structured, deterministic and reliable, making it ideal for tasks that requires precisions and repeatability and verifiability can be introduced where these languages are not curative, where it takes decisions by their own, and that's where This solution should be flexible in terms of algorithm, specific system requirements, and can be explicitly defined and optimized. Next is extended reach. When we are building this type of agents, that after fine tuning or after training, the static data sets that can be represented as snapshots of the informations up to a certain point of time. LLMs can actively go out and gather new informations from the web after their training period is over. If we want to limit it, we can also limit and restrict the agents to not to add the inputs or not to add any informations from the external world. It can generate response based on what they already know, and they cannot access or update real-time data from external sources on their own unless and until if user provides the consent or user confirms that they are fine with using external world informations. And agents cannot directly interact with external tools or data processing systems such as spreadsheets, cloud platforms, or analytics softwares, and autonomously set up system to monitor and collect ongoing data. Autonomous with the big brains of agents and the targeted capabilities of the agentic AI can operate independently and autonomously perform specific tasks without the need of constant human oversight. This enables continuous operations in environment where human supervision is limited or unnecessary. For example, an agentic AI could be tasked with managing marketing campaign, continuously monitoring performance, adjusting strategies, and optimizing result based on the feedback without the use or without need of human input at every stage. In healthcare, agents can monitor patients' data, adjust treatment recommendations based on new test results, and provide real time feedback to the clinicals. And finally, fourth point is intuitive, where imagine many business functions currently performed with software as a service products being replaced or augmented by agentic system, which enables workers to interact with the data and perform tasks more efficiently with natural language inputs and simplified user interface. For example, imagine a ticketing system, maybe ServiceNow, Jira, or any other ticketing system, which tracks the progress of projects, such as system requires many tables, tabs, and workflows that aren't always easy to understand at first glance. To find out useful information, users need to hunt for right data, navigating a complex array of menus to get the information they need. Then they might need to use the informations to create presentations. So this is how we can make a good agentic use case from BA perspective. Now over to you, Saloni, where she will cover about case study. Thank you.
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks for introducing BPMN and Automation Hub. So these were some of the things which some of the attendees were asking on the chat. So thanks a lot for that. Now, we'll probably try to cover this in a couple of minutes so that we can wrap up on time. So this is a use case or a case study that we have picked up. So last week, if you would have attended, we were talking about invoice processing from overall end-to-end process, but we have picked up a specific role within the invoice processing space, which is known as invoice processing dispute resolution advisor. Now we'll create it as a live example where we will probably ask everybody to put on chat your answers. So if this is one of the agent that we are trying to define, can all of you put across what would be the purpose of this particular role? Because that's important to define agent stories. So can some of you put it on chat? What would be the purpose of this particular role? Maybe people who are from F&A background or domain, it would be easier for them. Okay, so Narayan says work on HITL cases, which is human in the loop cases, and minimize human intervention from an invoice perspective. So basically, you're saying that when invoice comes to these agents, they want to reduce the manual intervention. Yes. Is there anybody else who wants to share the purpose? So think of it as a person in the organization who's probably looking at those invoices and trying to resolve disputes. Now that's what we want to look at. Yeah, to extract data from PDF invoices. Yes, handwritten invoices because we are talking about feasibility here. That's right, Sakti. And let's move on. So we spoke about that once you understand the role of these agents and we try to understand what these agents should do, we should try to understand their pain points because we need to have our agents also look at those aspects where it's challenging for this advisor. So now, can you now look at what can be the pain points of this particular role? Because after that, we'll come to a difficult one. Yes.
Mostly say standard errors. It could be two times you invoice standard where you can verify the systems and come back, which can be easily resolve it instead of manually doing it, going to different systems and get the data validated and do it. Because again, it's a standard way of resolution mostly. Either you could be two times a line item invoice, two times invoice process. There is some information required is missing. All
Yeah.
these can be easily addressed by doing that as an agent.
You're so right, funny. So because see, overall, when we were looking at automation, we were looking at maybe very very structured way of doing invoice processing. Now these are those dispute resolutions where your answer might vary from one use case to another. That's where we actually picked up this use case. So Deepak, just move on to the next slide, and we can pop up the role and the pain points. So the purpose of this role is to review and validate those invoices. These are the people, once they have some issues, they are the ones who communicate to stakeholders, be it vendors or people within the organization. They are trying to resolve the disputes and also they document it. And finally, as we spoke about that security and governance, there are certain compliances with respect to F&A processes that they need to adhere to. And finally, reporting is their uh, final end goal of doing this particular processing about the invoices. From the pain points, now this is where the agents can add maximum value because initially when you pick up those work areas and processes, you have to think about where exactly these agents would play maximum role. So manual data processing, that's what we are trying to eradicate in this process. This is high volume, so that's where it's a wonderful pickup. Like one of the person actually asked that why impact is prioritized than feasibility, because you have to really justify the investment. So if your volumes are high, wonderful use case for you to actually pick up. Lack of standardization. So as I said, this is a dispute resolution advisor. He or she gets different issues every time with the invoices. So that's where autonomy would come into picture, that these agents need to really take decisions. That's another pain point that we are trying to resolve. So yeah, these are some of the things which makes this process a wonderful use case from an agentic automation perspective. So these are the thoughts that a BA within the discovery space have to think about, like why this is a fit for an agentic automation. Now that we have spoken about the purpose of this role, pain points, I would like to finally ask. If everybody wants to do it on chat, but if somebody wants to volunteer, can somebody create an agent story for this one? We can actually bring the blueprint. Deepak, do you want to go back to the blueprint and we will ask everybody to write it on chat, an agent story for this particular use case? Yeah, so that's the blueprint. Let's use this and create an agent story for a role which is invoice processing dispute advisor. And we promise after that we will wrap up. Is there anybody who wants to volunteer? Maybe unmuting themselves and share their thoughts on this one?
Hi, Saloni. Avanu this side.
Yeah, enough.
I can give a try. Can we go back to that use case, the previous
Yeah,
slide?
sure. Yeah, we can. I'll do one thing. I will paste this blueprint on the chat if anybody wants to use it, and then we can go back to the
Mm-hmm.
slide. Yeah, I've pasted on the chat. Okay, sorry. I have to paste it to everyone. Okay. No, that's the answer. Yeah. So you can stay here, Deepak. It's not that tough. Give it a shot. And obviously, there can be so many different agent stories. So don't think that there is one right answer. We'll give another 1 minute and then we will reveal the answer. Okay, what's up? You're the first one. Do you want to read your agent story rather than I reading to everybody? What's up? You want to do that, or I can go ahead and read it to everybody then? Okay, let's read your answer. Utsav, no, we cannot hear you. Can you unmute?
Am I audible?
Yeah, Utsav, we can hear you now.
Okay. So,
Not audible.
dispute resolution advisor operating in the finance and procurement department. So that's the department I've decided. I want to review, validate, and resolve invoice-related disputes quickly and accurately. So I have added quickly and accurately just to put some emphasis on speed. By gathering, so next is tentative. By gathering data from invoices, and it's a typo. I actually meant POs. POs, validating discrepancy and providing a clear resolution. Now, interacting with stakeholders and vendors so that payment delays are minimized with better vendor relationship and compliance improvement. Success is measured by reduction in dispute resolution time, fewer escalations, higher accuracy, reconciliations, and improved stakeholder satisfaction. Some of the parts are taken from the previous project, uh, and some are just tentative.
No, it's pretty good. I think you have covered everything, which is great. Good job. Okay, in the interest of time, probably we'll move on and share the one which we drafted. But as I said, there can be multiple different agent stories depending on the environment that you are working in, etc. So what we have drafted is as a dispute resolution advisor, which is the role operating in the enterprise accounts payable system. So we are focusing on one system. It can be Oracle, SAP, etc. And what we want to identify, analyze, and resolve invoice disputes by reviewing invoice data. So now we are actually saying that what are the data aspects that we are trying to focus. So you want to review invoice data, also referencing to the POs and receipts, and initiating vendor communications whenever there is a dispute. And our interactions would be those ERP systems, maybe vendor portals, team members in terms of stakeholders, etc. So there are different aspects. And finally, what we are doing, which he also said that we want to actually we want to resolve those disputed invoices quickly and accurately by improving processing time and vendor satisfaction. And all this would be measured by reduction in average dispute resolution time, percentage of disputes resolved, and improved invoice processing accuracy. So I think what Utsav shared and some of you are also sharing, it's correct. So that's good. So yeah, this was the exercise we wanted to have. We didn't want to make it very, very complex as well. But now we can go back and put that into the impact and feasibility metrics in terms of once you answer all those questions, you would be able to understand, is this the right agent story to prioritize, etc. So that's how we wanted to wrap up today's session. But we would like to invite you to the upcoming session. So the next session we have next Tuesday. We would talk about the cost benefit analysis. So this week we spoke about the prioritization. Now next week would be more focused on how do you actually calculate the ROI of agentic user stories. So yeah, finally we'll just spend maybe a couple of minutes to answer some of the questions. There were some questions that we could check during the session. We tried to reply, but is there anything that we can answer in next couple of minutes?
I have one question regarding the
Yeah.
feasibility analysis. Now, I believe for RPA projects, we had one tool, a standard tool for doing the feasibility analysis, where it kind of defined the metrics, the scoring parameters, and a lot of information. Do we have something for agentic automation projects, or can we expect something in future?
So I think this is one of the things that is highly demanded by many discovery experts. So, as part of this particular series, we would also come up with the discovery toolkit, which would be shared with all the attendees and participants. So, I would say it's in progress in terms of we are collating everything together, and we'll be sharing once it is ready as part of this entire series. So that something which we would also look at from a calculator. As you said, we are also trying to create a PDD version of agentic automation. So yes, we'll be sharing across with you. Yeah, Kevin, you have raised your hand. Okay. Is there anything that anybody wants to answer? We'll go back to the chat and we will try to answer. I could see that there was a lot of traction in terms of getting agent stories in the healthcare sector. So I saw that Keul has shared one of the UiPath pages where you can go through white papers and certain use cases which are healthcare specific. But if you want to look at something more specific in terms of which area of healthcare you want to look at, feel free to drop me or Deepak uh, maybe message. I'll put my email ID on this chat, and you can get in touch with us. Deepak, feel free to also ping yours, and you can get connected to us on LinkedIn. Okay. If there are no more questions, we will wrap up the session today. You can access the recording of this session, as Rohit mentioned, on the page of UiPath community. You can also share with some of your colleagues who might be interested in this particular session. And if you have not registered for the next session, I will pin you the link here and feel free to register yourself before next Tuesday. So I've put it here, and yeah, see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Have
Thanks,
a
Saloni.
great rest of your day.